The street is where we create. We call it suburbanpreneurship.
Mixing big company resources with an entrepreneurial spirit.
This is Electric People. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Electric People podcast. We're going to flip the script. We're going to do things just a little bit different. I'm going to throw in a couple just solo episodes. There's so much happening in our industry, in our direct sales world, that I'm going to take the opportunity to just maybe talk a little bit about what I see and what I've learned in 20 plus years in sales leadership in this specific field. So these will be shorter. We won't have a guest, and let us know how you like them. Today, I wanted to talk about an observation I made a couple years ago that if you've been in a recruiting meeting with me or been on the other side of the recruiting table with me, I talk about this a lot. It's become actually core to my understanding of how businesses like ours work over time. A lot of the people that I talk to in a week, they're either just coming into this business or they're kind of in the infancy of their career. And then I have this juxtaposing group of people that I work with that have been doing it for a decade or longer. And so essentially, I've noticed that there's 5 developmental phases for a business like ours. A business that kind of starts as like a startup, a really clever idea, and then transitions and grows into being a significant business. So I found a couple things. Number one, if you know what phase the world around you is gravitating towards, you can align that with your business and what phase that's in. If your business is in the proper phase and the proper time for world events and what's happening in the world, a lot of times that'll increase your odds of success. The other thing is when you're looking at a competitive analysis, it often helps to know what phase both of the businesses are in and likely know kind of what's coming next. And you can evaluate and assess if they're set up kind of for what's coming next. So we're just going to jump into it. This is raw. This is my own idea. So, there might be differing opinions out there, but this is what I found. So the 5 developmental phases of a direct-to-home sales business like ours. Number 1 is creation. So creation is basically somebody has an idea, it might work, and we're going to try it. I was a part of Vivint Smart Home. The first decade of my career, I was there. And then, the past 12 years, I've been in the solar space. And so I've been a part of creation in a couple different phases. So we're going to look at smart home. So the smart home creation phase happened when, Todd Peterson, the story goes, he wasn't hired to join a pest control company, so he started his own. Basically had this idea that, hey, I think I can start up this company. We can go sell pest control contracts. I'll sell them to a service provider, and there's my idea. Worked and worked and worked. And then oftentimes what happens in a creation environment is somebody notices some early success or some potential, and they say, hey, so-and-so is starting this kind of business. We're going to start a business too. So that's phase 2. I call that addition. So addition is where you start to see competition. Addition is when, you start to see other competitors in your neighborhood. So when we got into the smart home space, we weren't the first people to do it, but we were one of the very early groups to do it. We were a creation company. We basically said, hey, let's go create these alarm accounts. We'll sell them to another provider. Then other entrants, addition companies joined us and came into the market. And so an addition company will generally try to compete or differentiate based on 2 things. It's either price or pay. That's generally what you see. So for example, if I was working for then Apex Alarm, and there's another entrant, we'll say Pinnacle Security, which was a real addition company back in the day, then Pinnacle Security may try to recruit me by saying, hey, you can sell the same product for less to customers, or we'll pay you more to do the same thing. So it's not very deeply strategic, but it is pretty disruptive in an addition phase. And so what'll happen generally is you engage in kind of this race to the bottom if it goes on for too long. Customer price continues to come down, rep commissions will continue to go up, and you kind of like engage in this game of chicken to see who's willing to make the least amount of profitability on this account. The challenge with addition, again, there's a time and place for it. There is room for different entrants in just about every competitive business environment. The challenge with it is if it goes on too long, the customer, at first it feels like they benefit. Maybe they get a cheaper price, maybe they get extra value proposition or whatever. if you go too far and it starts to eat too deeply into profitability, then ultimately the customer is the one that suffers. Ultimately, they're receiving a product from a business that either doesn't have much incentive to continue providing that service, or you can put them at risk of going out of business. So let's look at an example that I often discuss that I just kind of like was thinking about as I talk to different groups. So let's say I have this idea to start up a mobile detail business. Very simple business. I go knock doors and I wash people's cars. And let's say I start to do really, really well. And somebody, a competitor or a friend or whatever, notices that we're doing well. And they say, hey, Ty's having success with this mobile startup business. I think I should start one too. Now we are in an addition phase. So I have my business, it was in a creation phase. Then somebody else starts their business because they see that mine is doing well. And they might approach my customers. The way they're likely going to get those customers is they're going to offer them the same service at a cheaper price. So if I'm washing your car for 50 bucks, they might knock your door and say, hey, we do the same thing that your current company is doing, only we do it for 40 bucks and we're offering a free wash right now. Now, as a creation company, when an addition company comes into play, that can be very disruptive. I have to respond, I have to strategize, I have to figure out what I'm going to do about it. But initially, I may lose some customers. And so what I may be inclined to do, and likely because I'm competitive and want to keep my new business going, I'll go back to those same customers and I'll match the price. Or let's say I want to smash this competitor and say, hey, you know what? I'll do it for 5 bucks cheaper than they're doing it. Then we start this competitive kind of cycle. You already have a customer. It's cheaper to service that customer than to go get a new one. And maybe they say, I'll do it for 30 bucks. And then we continue to bid each other down. Now, what may happen is we bid each other down so much that we get down to 20 bucks. Well, I've never run a mobile detailing business before, but say we're selling $20 car washes. And say that I'm not doing all those car washes, I have to pay somebody to do them. Well, already it may be hard to find someone that's going to do this for 20 bucks, right? But then on top of that, they have to travel across town. I've got vehicles, I've got overhead, I've got gas. Maybe I offer a rain guarantee, and it gets to the point where the profitability on this is so incredibly low that likely I have to do a lot of washes in order to make any kind of money. The quality starts to suffer, and so ultimately the customer pays the price. Generally, in an addition market, there comes a time where somebody stands up and says, this is crazy. I'm out. I'm out of this race to the bottom. I'm going to do things differently. And I'm going to enter into phase 3, which is innovation. So say in the example of the mobile detailing business, innovation could be me saying, I'm done making $2 profitability on these car washes. I'm going to innovate. I'm going to create a product or a service that's really hard to replicate. And so maybe what I do, this is like a really modern or a really moderate form of innovation, but maybe I say, I'm going to go to the nicest neighborhoods that have estates. And part of these estates are going to be really high-end luxury cars. And I'm not going to sell $20 car washes. I'm going to sell $200 a month packages where I will take care of your cars. I will clean them for you when they need them. I'll shampoo the mink carpets. I'll using like specially curated products. I'll invest in tools that will allow me to do ceramic coatings on this car. And I'm essentially going to take care of your asset or your property for you. It's a really different service. So say I get in there and I start having success and I start growing and I've innovated on my current product. So meanwhile, my addition competitor is out there slanging $5 car washes or whatever they're doing. And I'm now servicing a different clientele with a different product offering that there is some barrier to entry. I had to invest, I had to develop the pitch, I had to develop the clientele. And I'm now a little bit more insulated because I have a true innovation that's harder for other people to simply copy. Not impossible, but harder. Now, the more you innovate and the more you invest and the more IP and the more proprietary products and services you have, the greater the likelihood for future phase graduation. So let's stick with the mobile detailing business. I'm doing really, really well. Let's say my former competitor is in this grind and they're not doing very well. Well, the thing that stops people from getting into innovation is it takes capital, it takes the right team, and honestly, the odds of success, they're not guaranteed. You may try it and you may fail. And so once something works and once something starts to grow, you start looking at phase 4, which is consolidation. So in the example of the mobile detailing business, let's say I reach out to that former competitor and I say, "Hey, I'm actually how's your business going? I didn't hate you, I just competed with you. How's your business going? I'm looking to expand my business. I remember that you started this business from nothing. You're actually kind of a thorn in my side, but I see your trucks around. It looks like you're doing well. Tell me about it." And that person might say, "Yeah, we've grown, but I'm frustrated with the way that we're doing it." Here's something that I always say to people. We generally don't do hostile takeovers in this business that last a long time. Generally, consolidation happens when it's better for everybody. Better for the customer, better for the company, better for the salesperson, better for the employees, better for their families. And so if I'm talking to this person that has built a legitimate business that's still in an addition phase while I'm in an innovation phase, I may say to that person, "Why don't you join me? We could expand our clientele. I've already invested in a lot of these tools. I have a clientele that's bigger than I can actually service. I saw the way that you ran your business. Why don't you partner with me? Why don't you either sell off that business or evolve your clientele and why don't you join me and do this together? Wouldn't you rather be servicing high-end customers? Wouldn't you rather be servicing nice vehicles? Wouldn't you rather have consistent income coming in? We could use your skill set. Sounds like this is better for you. Why don't you join us?" That's where you have consolidation. So I'm gonna pause there for a second and go through maybe an example of the one that I experienced. So when we were selling alarm systems, at first, right, I was a part of an early creation company. Then we started to get a lot of addition, a lot of other people that were doing the same thing. Now, when we were in phase 2, we would come back from our summer like deployments and we would tell our owners, "Hey, we would sell our alarm monitoring for, say it was $40 or something like that a month. We would find competitors, addition companies, that were getting as low as like $19.99 a month. So we would come back from the summer and we would tell our business owners like, "Hey, we're getting killed out there. We've got to sell this for cheaper." And I'm really grateful that those owners were smart businessmen that employed this kind of methodology. And eventually what they got to was, not only are we not going to engage in this race to the bottom and sell alarm monitoring for $20 that ultimately ends up being a disservice for companies, but we're going to raise the price to $70 and we're going to start including thermostats. We had developed our own proprietary alarm panel. We had created this doorbell camera where people could actually see. We started to integrate video and technology and things like that. Now, when we were an addition company, I would spend time convincing customers, you don't want alarms, or you don't want cameras, and you don't want all these other knickknacks. Focus on the alarm piece of it. Once we entered that innovation phase, I had an advantage. Now it costs money. We had to make some bets. We had to develop the technology as a company to have a proprietary product. It wasn't proprietary forever, but it elevated us into a new phase. And so I'll never forget when I was saying, "Hey, we need to match these guys on price," and kind of saying, "Well, let me show you," and having them say, "Let me show you what the actual strategy is. We're going to almost double the price and we're going to offer a better product and service." Initially, I was hesitant. I was young in my career. I hadn't seen this play out. And I saw that company evolve from a run-of-the-mill security company to the leading smart home company in the country. They got investment from multiple high-end investment groups and establishments. There were financial events that me and my friends benefited from. And the company ultimately entered this kind of unique group of being worth billions of dollars, all because at the right time, they advanced into the right phase. So after we had entered into innovation time is a very good time to recruit. So we started going to other people that couldn't offer the same products. They couldn't service the customers in the same way. Their sales reps couldn't offer the same thing. So when we had two reps that met in a neighborhood, ours was making more money. They were selling a better product, a product that customers wanted. And so when we brought groups over, we would basically say to them, "Wouldn't you rather sell this product and don't you have customers that ask you for this? It might be better for you, your reps, and your customers if you joined and sold our product suite." And that's when you get consolidation. That's when you get big groups kind of coming in together. And then the fifth and final phase that happens is domination. Domination, I would classify as there's really no other option, but luckily it's best. So domination happens. That's when companies go from, like, if you look at Apple in 2006. So this is pre-iPhone launch, but Apple in 2006 was worth $5 or $6 billion. Apple now is worth multiple trillions of dollars. And in 2006, that was right before they went into what I would call pretty much domination phase. They have the last stat I saw says they're 12% of the smartphone market, which doesn't sound like a lot, but 12% of the world market is actually a ton. And so what happened was right before 2006, they launched the iPhone in 2007, and then think of all the innovations that happened since that. You got iTunes Music, you've got Apple TV, you've got streaming, you've got all of these products in the Apple iCloud like suite that communicate and talk to each other. There's an app store. None of that stuff existed before. And so now, when we look at smartphones and look at like the phases of these, right? Initially, when I got a smartphone, there was a lot of companies that basically had gone through that creation phase and said, hey, I think we could make these like mobile units that people can take around, and I think it could catch. So you had companies like Motorola and Nokia and Kyocera and BlackBerry and Palm and all these like companies that made phones. And it used to be when you got a cell phone, people were pretty brand agnostic. It's like, whatever new phone's out, I'll get that. I'll try that for a while. And so then there was the edition phase. So there's like multiple different entrants. That's where we got that optionality that we just discussed. But then, like I was talking about with Apple, we started to get innovation around like, 2004, 5, 6. So I remember you could get a Sidekick, you could get a Palm Pilot, you could get a BlackBerry, and then you could get an iPhone. And so all of these different companies had smart phones. Then we entered into that innovation phase, and Apple and Android really, really, really innovated. They saw a world that other people didn't see. They invested time, tech, money, they recruited people together. There was a lot of market events that kind of made that work. And it built. And eventually it got to the point where they were so far evolved that some of these smaller, like you don't see Nokia phones anymore. You basically see these other companies, they're like, well, we're not going to do that, or we missed the boat, or the risk is too high, or we can't compete now. And so you get consolidation. You get groups like Apple buying up other people's apps or other people's technology, or taking like the good businesses or the good pieces of it and saying, hey, we're better together. Why don't you join us? Wouldn't you rather work on this platform? So you get a lot of consolidation. And now if you look at the market, if you want a smartphone, and at least if you're in like the circle of people that I seem to be around, if you want a smartphone, you got pretty much two choices. You can get an iPhone or you can get an Android. But I don't hear anybody, when we talk about phase 5, this domination phase being, it's kind of the only thing available, but luckily it's best. I don't hear many people that say, I really wish I could get a Sidekick from 2005, because the product now that we have is so far advanced. It's so far beyond anything that we thought we would have before that it's better. It's a better product. It's affordable. It allows people, it solves problems for people. And so you get into domination. Domination companies are worth a lot. So the reason that I bring this up is when you look at like solar, okay, when you look at energy and where it started, creation for us was, I was working at Vivint Smart Home. Goldman Sachs had this idea that there were starting to be companies that were getting into this market where you could basically sell energy the same way that we were selling alarms. Contracts were longer, the monthly dollar amounts were higher, and there were some government subsidies that made it look like it was kind of a good business. Now, this was at Vivint Solar. We weren't the first. We actually were an addition company. And so we saw Solar City, we saw Sunrun, they were doing it. We had a little bit different of a route to market. We were strictly direct to home. We were door to door. Solar City was a little bit more traditional sales, and Sunrun was using a dealer model. So again, we were an addition company, but it was still kind of early creation phase of kind of the industry. Well, then we started selling it. We started having success. And from, I don't know, maybe 2014 to 18 or 19, it was kind of like our addition phase. We saw a lot of people getting into the market. We saw a lot of people trying to do the exact same thing in the exact same way. Then we had a series of market events where Sunrun made really different choices and Vivint Solar made really different choices that propelled us through the phases where other people kind of stopped. First one of those was COVID. So when COVID happened, there was a lot of question on, well, you couldn't do door-to-door sales. People were essentially like quarantined inside their homes. And so, we had to change the way that we did our business. We had to innovate just a little bit. Well, following COVID, we had a whole lot of changes with interest rates. We had a lot of changes with utility companies and the way that they did their credits of purchasing energy. And so companies that were in the addition phase solely struggled to hang on for a little bit. The good ones rode it out for a while. But if you look at like the last year, year and a half, there's 130 solar companies that have gone out of business, 120 to 130 that are just gone. Some of them are really big players. And so luckily during that phase, we saw some innovation, right? We saw companies like Vivint Solar and Sunrun. They changed their pricing. They changed their product suite. We started to invest in batteries to counter some of the decisions that utility companies were making. So as we started to innovate, as we started to do things a little bit differently, in 2020, we actually consolidated. So Sunrun and Vivint Solar came together and said, hey, I think we're better together. Sunrun had this really strategic kind of like finance arm of the business that was really advantageous. Vivint Solar had a really good internal captive sales force. And so we looked at it, and again, generally don't do hostile takeovers. You consolidate when both parties are better served. And we said, hey, customers would be better served, employees would be better served, the market would be better served. Let's team up. So as we teamed up, we continued to innovate. We have products that other people can't sell, that other people can't finance, that other people can't, because of the nature and the construction of their company, literally can't create it. We have, proprietary deals with the amount of batteries that we've deployed. We have proprietary deals with utility companies and other customer offerings that other people can't do. And so as we've continued to innovate, we've had a lot of people consolidate and join the company. Now it's very, very common where we used to meet with ones and twos in the sales leadership position. We now meet with groups of people or individuals that represent massive groups. And the common theme is we want to sell what you're selling. We want the stability of your company. Essentially, you guys have innovated. We would love to be a part of it. And as we look at it, if they fit our culture and our values, we're better together. Bring them on board. So we're positioned for really rapid growth. I bring this up so that you can assess what phase your business is in. If you're still like chasing red lines or comparing commission tables and you're selling a addition product, a product that's basically like a PPA that saves people a little bit of money on their monthly bill, a little bit of money in today's environment, you're likely going to be phased out. You should get ahead of this and be with a company that's actually probably 2/3 of the way through their innovation phase and actually shipping products that are proprietary that are working, and should consider consolidation. Again, when Vivint Solar and Sunrun came together, that was a very good thing. It was a very good thing for the people that worked here. It's a good thing for the customers that we serve. And now we're the largest provider of full stack solar in the country, and it's not even close. Customers are getting a better product, and we're innovating on products that are meeting today's demands. So now we have this opportunity to move into this domination phase. Again, one of the advantages of Sunrun is our salespeople can earn ownership in the company. If you can earn that while things are working, while we're innovating, while we're consolidating, and while we're approaching domination, it's a very unique financial position, especially as a salesperson, to be in. If you can earn equity in a company that's poised for domination, you can benefit a lot from other people's work. I experienced that at Vivint Smart Home. We got to a point where we pretty much had won, in the smart home race. Like it was pretty much Vivint if you wanted a smart home, and that's what you got. And we got a multiple billion-dollar valuation, and the people that had ownership in the company benefited more than they could have from their own efforts. So right now we have this challenge where we are looking at a massive hockey stick demand curve coming from AI and the way the world is moving with technology. We need to create more power than we have the capacity to create right now. So meanwhile, while the world is developing this problem and this massive need, you've heard it multiple times that energy is the new gold. We need, some of the estimates show the equivalent to 250 nuclear power plants need to come online to service the immediate AI demand. Well, I live in California. We've just finished decommissioning every nuclear power plant and shutting off every coal plant that the state has. Now, it's getting to the point where it takes 7 to 10 years optimistically to build a power plant. If they double their efficiency, it'll take 3 to 5. Sunrun builds the equivalent to a nuclear power plant every 10 months. The industry does closer to 7 a year. And so what's happening is, as we've innovated and as we've figured out these real solutions where customers can create and store power on the side of their house, and that power is owned by, or the equipment is owned by Sunrun, we essentially can incentivize the customers to sell some of that power off, and we can ship that power around. It's an extreme innovative advantage that if you are not selling, you should be selling. If your company can't do that, if you're just a reseller for somebody else, you should get as close to the source as possible, because companies that can do that in today's environment, in today's economy, are becoming very, very valuable. And so as we get to a point, the companies that will dominate in the future are the people that can create power at a sustainable rate that doesn't necessarily rely solely on the government incentives or the low interest rates that exist for a time. That's the reason that we've seen so many companies go out of business, is they've built their business to only survive in very unique conditions. Being that Sunrun is in charge of the full stack, everything from the sourcing of the material to the pricing to the raising of the funds to the salespeople that go out and sell it, to the installation people, to the service people, to the legal protection, to the policy team that sees to it that our policies are favorable and work for our customers. It gives us a lot of insulation against market conditions. And so as you look at this long term, the companies that will dominate are the people that can create sustainable power where it's pretty limitless, where they can do it in an affordable way, where the company makes money, where it's a good value to the customers, and the power can be stored, saved, and shipped around. That power is very, very valuable. So when I look at where we're at as a business, I kind of measure it against those phases. It's a very exciting time to be in the industry, but every now and then I look around, I look left and right and say, what phase are we in and how are we positioned to win? So anyway, I share that with you so that, number one, if you work here, some confidence, right? We still have a bit of a bumpy road to follow, an innovative and consolidating and domination road. Those are challenging roads. Not everybody makes it down it, but we keep surviving and keep doing well. So one, just give you some confidence in the business and some kind of like high level phases that we're following through. And then number two, if you're not with a company that you have that level of confidence, join us, come consolidate, join our group, offer your customers a better solution. And as we continue to evolve, we'll always make sure that our customers are first and foremost, which will put us in a position to really benefit in not only the direct sales world that we're in right now, but kind of like the global economy and the global energy economy. So anyway, hopefully that's a helpful thought. Again, a short little episode with some thoughts from the brain. So this has been another episode of Electric People. Thanks for joining us.
If you like what you hear and are interested in joining the team, DM us on Instagram at RunXStreet.
What are you waiting for? Shoot us a DM and let's get going.